is that, you know, in the grand vision, there are trains all over the world.
Yeah.
Now, this is part of what inspired me, actually. I was on a subway train in New York City years ago, and with my spiritual sister, whose name is Faith. And she was standing there on the subway holding the post at one point, and I looked at her and I went, man, you look like a picture. And so I took the shot. Behind her was a Jewish man. She's Chinese. And behind her was a Jewish man on this side, and on this side was somebody who looked like they were German, and then there was a Hispanic gentleman, and there was all this culture that was surrounding her on the train. And I called the picture subculture, you know. New York is that, because, but also just because of that, you know, and I thought how interesting it is that, you know, regardless of our differences, there are things that we do together, like ride trains, but yet not talking to each other.
That's right.
And so I thought, you know, how interesting it would be if we could start to break that silence. And if maybe the subject of conversation to start was just that simple question: what will we do to change our world today? And then once we start breaking the silence, and we start realizing that the person that sat beside us was the answer to our prayer, you know, we'll start to see the world heal and change. And I think that
see, the amazing part of this is that about 3 or 4 years ago, we went to Amtrak, and we tried to sell them on the idea of having a train to go from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., Baltimore, New York, and call it the Love Train. And at each stop, we would do a concert, get back on the train, and take people along with us as we go from town to town. And we tried to get them to buy into this. We almost had them, and then, you know, then the economy started affecting them, and then they decided they cut down on a lot of trains and where trains were going. So it was hard. It was a hard sell. But if we start, I think if you start on the ground, like this is a start. And the more people we can get on this next year, I think the bigger we can take this on a national scale, where it can mean something.
We got to get the president on it.
That's right.
And we can do that. I believe that we can do that.
And that is really the idea. And he needs it, and the world needs it.
That's
right.
Oh yeah. I can't wait to get in this company.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
It will happen.
And because I feel that he feels that.
Oh yes.
I agree. And when you're talking about, you know, economy and things too, you know, I see a lot of that, especially working with nonprofits and things that are, you know, even in competition with each other for the same grants and things like that. You know, this is what I want to, you know, in this flyer, what it says is connection plus communication equals collaboration. So often we separate from each other in this state of competition, you know.
Absolutely.
You know,
and it's not an idea of competition.
No, not at all.
That's right.
Not at all.
It's just coming together and doing something that's positive.
That's why I'm so happy you're here, that your heart is here.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, what I really believe is that we can start something, that the love train, that never stops, and people get on and off as they please, but when you're on the train, you have support of the train, like I say. And we spent $6 million on one Super Bowl ad. Prospectively, it costs $2,500 to supply clean drinking water to 10,000 people. So, you know, we can't change the world with love. I think we can. And, you know, if we start a program like that where we're actually showcasing these good causes and, you know, the process and the result. Also, people talk a lot about giving to charity and they don't know where their money's going and they can't see. So, you know, by involving people in the process, then people feel a lot better about being a part of it. And we can see, we focus on the positive results. So that becomes the premise, you know, of the plot of a television show or film projects. And Hollywood is full of people who don't believe in impossibility. You know, to put something on film for a couple seconds, they come up with new technology to do it. You know, and if we can apply that kind of energy to the real world, things will move. And if you've got those kind of advertising dollars flowing through those projects, then they will happen.
I think if we can give each car a a cause.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's a great idea.
Cancer cause.
Yes.
There's a scholarship
The
for education.
women
cause.
empowerment, domestic
There's
violence.
absolutely a card for each.
Clean water.
Do you understand?
Refugee.
And they all interweave.
That's right.
What a brilliant idea.
And you intertwine all of them. I think we can sort of think the world that way.
You bet.
And everybody
Banners in each car, right? Yes.
Look, man, it's a hard sell. Man, because the hardest thing to do is to get people to come and do free stuff.
Yes.
That's the hardest thing that I found
We will
in doing this scholarship weekend. Trying to sell people, hey, look, this is something for free. We're giving people. People don't quite understand that. Well, what am I going to get from it? You're going to get the joy of helping somebody. That's what you're going to get.
Right.
And putting your money where your mouth is.
Right.
And preaching and not doing.
It doesn't work.
And that's not, you're just preaching. You're not doing anything. Why? We must incorporate the world and all the causes, because that's not just what we're doing here. We're trying to help the world.
Right.
I love that idea of each car maybe having banners about okay, whoever wants to ride in free clean water for the world, or the domestic violence, or the refugee causes, or diversity, whatever it is. Yes.
Whatever the cause
and then
Have education on the car. But the total just split it between the foundations.
Exactly. Right.
But just have education.
Great idea.
Everybody gets some.
Right.
That's right.
Well, I'll give you a story, a quick one, about Bill Gates and a couple of big organizations where supposedly he doled out, funds for each organization. Then he said, okay, now since you're all doing it, let's say for water, what about I'll give more funds if you all collaborate? What do you all think happened?
Nobody. because here we go again. The fight of who's going to be who.
Yes. There was no love.
It became a fight about competition.
Right.
It's not about competition. It's about trying to help people. And that's not competitive.
And when you do so, you open yourself up to all the other resources. You close yourself by thinking corner-minded.
That thing you call karma.
Yeah.
You just do that circle, that karma. You put it out, you get it back. And that's what you got to do. Look, man. My career has been some 50 years. Yes, and there's people still in this world that don't even know who I am. You know what I'm saying? There's people who never heard of me. You know what I'm saying? But yet still I've been able to be a success. That's only because of God's planning and the way He wants to do things. I'm just the vessel. I'm just the voice. That's what I am.
Oh, okay.
That's it. John's a good man. He's a good man, you guys. He's persistent.
See,
good man.
I think there were many things that were really obvious, and you can't write lyrics like that without feeling it. Because even we can give all we want, but if we do it without love, you know what that means. If that makes any sense. And but I think when you put the joy into the giving, when everyone's having a great time doing things for good causes, then you help people not look away from painful things. So the love train is an idea. People are stressed on their own with the economic problems, etc., and their personal problems. But people tend to look at something like this like a fun thing to do, putting joy into it, and that's what makes me look at things. and not feel stressed and trying to help at traumatic situations. But I think that Love Train is really a vehicle for that.
Yeah, like the one lady said, this is her first time riding a train.
Oh,
you know, and this is her second time because we made it a point to take the kids this year in New York, and we rode the train and took the kids on them, and some of them never been on the train. Been everywhere, you know, all over the world, but never been on a train. And that's why it's becoming obsolete, because and that's why they're closing down a lot of the train stations, and but it's a good means of transportation.
And then two things pop in my head. You know, love hopefully never gets obsolete.
Right.
That's maybe the symbolism, and also that love has no division.
Right.
You know, so I think those messages need to go out there.
Right.
You know, we're talking
love
about
is unconditional.
There you go. You know, and so that's you bring in whoever needs to be on the train.
And you're speaking of the the Bill Gates thing and how it's funny that everyone was offered something and then got nothing.
That's right.
Because they didn't
nothing.
They didn't get the connection.
Yeah. If you break down the words, okay, there you go now, Eddie. People all over the world join hands, right?
That's right.
What? Go on.
Start a love train. Love train.
Start a love train.
That's right.
That means to me that everywhere in the world they can start a love train.